We've lived in this house for 10 years and we've spent a bunch of time and money upgrading the areas that we spend the most time in, like our primary bathroom and living room. This room is technically a small bedroom that has a couple decent sized closets, so we've been using it as an office and for storage. It's not really a great use of the space and we're starting to accumulate some stuff that we'd like to display somewhere. You know, really important stuff like lightsabers, Legos, and Captain America shields. We decided that this back wall is perfect for some built-in cabinets and shelves, as well as a desk that I can use for working from home or writing and recording this voiceover. Stay tuned to the end of the video where I'll comment on the cost breakdown. Like I said, this isn't a room that we use all the time, so I didn't want to spend a bunch of money on materials. One strategy to do that is to get cheap stock cabinets and modify them to fit my needs. The ones I got are from Lowe's and the brand is called Project Source. They're a basic oak and pretty cheaply made, but they'll fit my needs perfectly. Standard kitchen cabinets are about 34.5 inches high, but I'm using this as a desk and so I need them to be about 30 inches high. I could have cut off the toe kick and kept the drawer, but I thought that would look weird up against the carpet. We'll be getting a lot more storage with these cabinets, so after some debate, I decided to cut off the drawer. I also think that the same baseboards wrapping around the cabinets and the entire room will look really nice. Let me know in the comments if you think I'm going to regret that decision. After removing all the trim, I temporarily put the cabinets in place and got the exact location of what carpet I needed to cut out. I've never really done carpet before, but I know that I didn't want the cabinets sitting on anything else besides the subfloor. With the carpet and pad cut out, I also moved the tack strips to keep the carpet from shrinking over time. Tack strips are basically thin pieces of wood with a bunch of short nails sticking up at an angle, and they nail to the subfloor and then grab the underside of the carpet and keep it stretched into place over time. With the carpets installed, I headed back down to the shop and got out my track saw, which for me is ideal when cutting up large sheets of plywood. I don't have a very large table saw, so this is a lot safer to do it this way. For the desktop, I thought about doing some butcher block or some other material, but ultimately decided to keep the project simple and moving along, so I just went with 3/4 inch birch plywood. This back wall is about a 12-foot span, and because the plywood I got is in 4x8 sheets, I decided to have one single piece span the desk and then 2 seams under each of the shelves. I'm going to fill those seams with wood putty and then sand them smooth, so after it's all painted, I don't think they'll be too visible. With the base of this unit complete, I can move on to the shelves. The design calls for 3 separate units, so in order to do that, I'm going to build the 2 side units first and then connect them to make the middle unit. These shelves are 15 inches deep, and I did that for 2 reasons. One, it allows me to get 3 pieces of wood out of 1 sheet of plywood that's 48 inches wide, and 2, it sits back about a foot from the front of the base, which allows for it to be more easily used as a desk. The shelves are going to be held in place and supported in several different ways. I'm not planning on storing a full Encyclopedia Britannica on these shelves, but they have over a 4-foot span, so I want them to be sturdy. I glued and nailed some brackets to each support piece and then glued and screwed the shelves in from the sides. I then added supports to the back, and later I'll add a face frame, which will add a little more stability, so I don't anticipate any sagging issues over time. My wife has huge muscles, so she helped me put these in place, and then I added the center shelves, which tied the 2 units together. As you can see, these don't go all the way to the ceiling, and I'm going to address that here in a minute. The face frames are made of simple strips of 3/4 inch poplar, and they're held in place with glue and brads. I've seen carpenters build face frames like these first and then attach the entire unit all at once, but I'm just not that confident in my skills to do that. I took my time to make sure that each piece was perfectly flush with the shelf so that I could minimize the filler and sanding that I needed to do later. Earlier I talked about the same baseboards wrapping around the entire room, and I'm going to do that same thing with the crown molding at the top of the built-ins, but with one extra detail. I think a little strip of base cap under the crown will look really sharp, so I installed a long strip of plywood and then the trim, and that basically encapsulates the upper part of the shelves. I should have put a little surprise up there for whoever takes this down one day. I added some small crown molding to cover the gap at the top of the cabinets and a small piece of bead molding to cover the plywood edge. All the trim throughout this project is held together with glue and either 23 gauge pin nails or 18 gauge brad nails. I filled all the seams and nail holes with wood putty and then sanded everything smooth. Okay, a couple of weeks passed by here and I finally got around to painting the unit, and I must have forgotten that I was making a YouTube video here because I started filming vertically. I post a bunch of short form content over on Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook, so if you like what you see, don't only follow me here, but check me out over on those platforms as well. Anyway, I decided to go through the trouble of masking everything off and spraying this unit so I could just find a chunk of time and get it done. I work full time, so I usually do projects a little here and there, and that's hard to do with painting. I'm using Sherwin-Williams Infinity and the color is West Highland White, and anytime I spray, I like to use a quality paint to limit clogs and sputters. The sprayer I'm using is a Graco True Coat 360 DS, and it's great for smaller projects like this. I had to refill it a couple of times, which wasn't a big deal, and it was a lot easier than using my larger paint sprayer. Okay, so that's it. We're really happy with the way that these turned out. We spent about $450 on the cabinets and another $500 on plywood and other materials. So all in all, we're just about $1,000. These built-ins actually make the room feel larger because all the extra depth and character along this wall. It gives us a much more functional desk to work at and also a ton more storage. We're able to display a bunch of things that have been in storage for years, and more importantly, I use this opportunity to steal the opposite wall and display all my nerd stuff. I find myself using this room a lot more and couldn't be happier with the way that this turned out. Hopefully this video inspires you if you're thinking about doing something similar, so let me know in the comments if you have any questions or if you think I should have done anything differently.